Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 49. Please repeat after me, Sanskrit. Sadyam niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim Jayu swarat iva nipana kanitramindra Sadran niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim Jayu swarat iva nipana kanitramindra Sadryan niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim Jayu swarat iva nipana kanitramindra. Word for word, sadhya, artificial mental speculation, or meditation. Niyamya, controlling. Yataya, the mystics. Yama karta hetim, the process of spiritual culture. Jahu, are given up. Swarat, fully independent. Eva, as. Nipana, well. Kanitram, trouble for digging. Indra, the controlling demigod, supplying rains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation, as performed by the jnanis and yogis. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Please repeat. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation, as performed by the jnanis and yogis. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Purport. A poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental realization speculate on the mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of the senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person, the Personality of Godhead. It is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. The example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is the controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not have to take the trouble to dig a well for his personal water supply. For him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, those who are factually engaged in the loving service of the Lord have attained the ultimate goal of life, and for them there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities. Nor do such devotees have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord. Because they are factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord's pure devotees have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna, ask for the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas to speak on this verse to the best of my ability. Try to do some service to elaborate on this, the purports and the translations by Srila Prabhupada. So, we're hearing the Bhagavatam, continuing to hear the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a really nice verse today that we get to meditate on. And basically, the main point of this verse is that the process of bhakti is superior to the process of jnana and yoga. And this verse is containing a metaphor for explaining this. The metaphor is that of King Indra and that of digging a well. So Indra is the demigod controlling the element of water, or the supply of rains throughout the whole universe. Just this concept alone is a nice meditation, that the universe has a governmental system. It's going on very nicely according to the arrangements of higher intelligence. It's not just random, like a big bang, and then all the elements come out of this big bang, and then the water supplies are coming nicely. The planets are supplied with everything they need, just randomly, with no intelligence or no design. But the Bhagavatam explains that everything is controlled by higher intelligence, higher beings. So we're not alone here. The concept of modern science is that we're alone, the humans. This is the only life in the universe, is the earth. But the Bhagavatam explains that that's not the truth. There's higher beings, there's demigods who are the controllers. They're like the management or the universal government. And so this is who is being spoken about here, is one of those department heads, King Indra, who is in charge of the proper distribution of water. Who all likes water? Water, it's good. Fresh water. There's like a modern slogan, right? Water is life, something like that. It's getting really, really tough in Kali Yuga. We have to really make slogans to protect the water. Protect clean water, because we apparently are mismanaging the water supply in the planet, polluting the waters and yes, amongst other things happening. But so we're hearing that King Indra, he's this powerful demigod who controls the waters, and so he doesn't have to dig a well for his personal water supply, because he's a celestial being, and all the water in the whole universe is under his control. Then you see him going out next to his palace and digging a well to make sure he has clean water to drink. This is the analogy given to explain how a person who's executing the process of bhakti, devotional service, he doesn't have to engage in the process of knowledge and meditation in and of themselves, or jnana and yoga. So this verse is not, sometimes when we have an immature conception of the teachings of bhakti, we start to hammer everything down. Jnana, yoga, all rascals. You perform yoga, you're a rascal. You're just a mental speculator. This is nonsense. That's not the purpose of this verse. The purpose is not to put other things down, but the purpose is to glorify bhakti. The purpose is to glorify bhakti as the supreme process. So in order to glorify bhakti, it has to put things in the right perspective. That where is knowledge and where is yoga in relationship to bhakti? So Krishna is never fanatical. In the Bhagavad Gita, he presents everything very nicely, very systematically. So I wanted to share some things from the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna explains, actually first I want to explain what is yoga and what is knowledge. So jnana and yoga, these are processes of self-realization. So these processes, like I said before, they're not to be smashed down, they are valuable. And the purpose of jnana and the purpose of yoga is to realize the self. And jnana means to distinguish the soul from the material nature, to analyze our situation and distinguish ourselves from the interactions of the material energy, the material nature. And so this is done by philosophizing, deconstructing the elements and the interactions of the elements, and taking oneself out of those things by mental adjustment, mentally adjusting our relationship with the material energy. And yoga is the process of controlling the mind and removing oneself from the interactions of the material energy by a mechanical process of stopping all activity. Just sit. Just stop what you're doing, just sit there. This all is going on. You're separate from it. And to realize this, just sit. Just take a time out. And just stop what you're doing, and keep stopping, and just stop and stop and stop and stop, and just don't do anything. So in the Bhagavad Gita, if you keep doing this properly, it's a real thing. Yoga, getting to these higher states of yoga, stopping all activity, is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter. So in the perfectional stages of this stopping, it's called samadhi, where you've stopped all material activity. So it says, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. And also the process of jnana, of knowledge, is also very glorious, and Krishna glorifies it in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He says in 4:38, in this world there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the fruit of all mysticism. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't condemn yoga or jnana, and it's not that they're completely useless, and they're processes of self-realization. And it's very profound, actually, these statements. When I first read the Bhagavad Gita, I was like, wow, this trance, this joyous state beyond all material interactions of the mind. Like, it's very, very deep, realizing the self. What does it mean to realize the self? It's this deep, the journey of understanding who we are. What is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? What are we doing here? Where are we going? All these deep questions that we all ask in the heart of our hearts. We have this longing to understand what is the purpose of life. Why are we here? First of all, we have to realize that we are here. That's what self-realization means, that we exist. This is the beginning of spiritual life, realizing that we exist. We all know that we exist right now. Obviously, we're here. There's pratyaksha. You can observe that you exist in the present moment. But what does it really mean to realize that you exist? It means to realize that you exist forever. To real existence means that it's not just this, you exist in this life, this one little lifetime, but that you actually exist eternally. That's what it means to exist. We exist. Every one of us exists forever. That's the Sat. There's 3 levels of realization of spiritual life. Sat, Chit, Ananda. To realize the Sat feature, that Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit, I exist forever. I'm not a product of the material nature. I'm not this body, I'm not the mind. I'm separate from these things. So the process of jnana and yoga is the process of realizing that, realizing the self as separate from matter. Which, when you realize the self, it's an ecstatic experience. You're like, I exist. It's this spontaneous feeling of security, that of existence. We all want to exist because we all do exist. We don't. The worst thing in life is to go out of existence. That's why death is so scary, is because it appears that we go out of existence. We're eternal souls, and then it appears that we're going to, after this certain point in time, that we're not going to exist. So that's the issue, is that we're identifying with that which doesn't exist. That's what Maya means, to identify with the material energy, the misidentification of the self with the material energy. So what doesn't exist is our temporary bodies and our temporary egos, and the mind and senses that go along with the ego. So I am a man, I am a woman, I am a basketball player, or I am a singer. All these things that are attached to the temporary body is that which doesn't exist. And so realizing the self as separate from the body mechanically, that's what jnana and yoga is. Does that make sense? This jnana and yoga concept? Yeah? So these processes are useful. But they're actually included within bhakti. So this is the main point of this text, and it's the main message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that bhakti is superior to these other processes. It's said in the first verse, or in the second chapter of the Bhagavatam, 127, it says, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So knowledge and detachment, these are jnana and yoga. They're included. They're byproducts of achieving, of advancing in bhakti. So they're in and of themselves, they're compared here to King Indra digging a well, because somebody who is advanced in bhakti, these things are insignificant in and of themselves. They're easily attained, knowledge and detachment. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he gives knowledge to those who engage in loving service to him. He reveals himself to him, to the devotee. And by understanding Krishna, we understand everything, because Krishna is the source of everything. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravardhati iti matva bhajantimam buddha bhavasamam. No, I think I messed up that one. But he's the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from him. So to understand Krishna means to understand everything in its proper relationship with Krishna. So that's why there's no end to understanding Krishna, because everything comes from him. Understanding Krishna means understanding Krishna and his energies. Everything in the universe expands from Krishna. So, and Krishna. So Krishna is the personal feature of the Supreme, and it's all the other features are included. So when we approach directly Krishna, the source, we automatically attain knowledge of everything, and we achieve detachment from the material energy, because we become attached to Krishna. We become attached to our relationship with Krishna. So it's very easy to give up our attachment to our temporary conditioning. There's an analogy given like if a child is holding something dangerous, something that's not good for him, that's kind of like us in the material world. We're holding on to our attachments in the world, and it's harming us. It doesn't give us pleasure, so it's not in our own interests. Kind of like a child holding some dangerous object like a knife or getting close to fire. So if a child is holding a knife, the best way, you don't want to like fight with the child, and they might cut themselves. So you just give them some candy, give them a piece of candy, and the child will drop the knife and then run after the candy. So this is like bhakti. Krishna is like candy, and he's so sweet, and he gives us so much happiness that when we become absorbed in Krishna, then we automatically become freed from all inferior things. And it's described, Rupa Goswami says that explicitly, one of our acharyas, that Krishna is like candy. Does anybody know where? Where does he say Krishna is like candy? Rupa Goswami? Yeah, Nectar of Instruction, verse 7. The name, form, qualities, and activities of Krishna are all sweet like sugar candy. But when we're conditioned, it doesn't taste so good in the beginning. We keep chanting Krishna's name every morning. It's like, it's supposed to be sweet. Why is it not sweet? It's described that we have, its analogy is like the jaundice of ignorance. We don't have a taste. We're attached to material things. So we don't have a taste. We're diseased. We're diseased. So we can't taste the sweetness yet, but we have to keep taking the sweet medicine, and eventually we'll be able to taste the sweetness, and we'll be cured of the disease. So Krishna is full of sweetness. So we hear it over and over again, that this devotional service to serve Krishna, serve. We need to serve. We need to be a servant of the servant of the servant. Serve, keep serving. Why is this so much service? Why do we have to be a servant? Why can't we do something else? But it's not like, there's like what is that? The Disney movie? What are the dwarfs, the 7 dwarfs? They're going off to work, like hi ho, off to work I go. Just like, just work. Just like, oh, don't get any days off here. This is rough, too much service. It's not like that. This is when we have the jaundice, we're not experiencing the sweetness of serving Krishna. Because Krishna is a reservoir of all sweetness and all good qualities, that when you serve Krishna, you also get filled with these good auspicious qualities. Because Krishna is so sweet, he emanates sweetness. He emanates happiness. That's what one of his names is, Rama. Rama, right? We say that also a lot. Rama. Krishna, Rama. Always repeating. Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure, the reservoir of all sweetness. So Krishna emanates sweetness. So you can see in the deity form gives us a visual representation of this sweetness, especially when Vaishnavi dresses, Radha Govardhandari. There's so much sweetness coming from Krishna, Radha and Krishna. There's all these flowers and colors, so much amazing sense. And Krishna, when Vaishnavi makes the eye and the gopi dots on Krishna, his eyes just like come to life. It's so amazing. It's amazing. And there's so much sweetness with Krishna. And so Bhakti, like I said, doesn't mean just working. It means serving Krishna and developing his devotional sentiments. And meditation and knowledge are just byproducts of this bhakti. When you become absorbed in Krishna's sweetness, particularly there's Rupa Goswami explains there's 5 most potent forms of bhakti. One of them is the hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so this is a very important one in the very beginning. To understand Krishna's sweetness and understanding Krishna's personality, we have to read the Srimad Bhagavatam systematically until we get to the 10th canto, and then we really understand Krishna's sweetness in all of his glory, his activities, what he does on a daily basis. It's all there. Krishna really comes to life when you get to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Krishna's qualities. This is Krishna's nature. This is what he does. This is how he relates with his devotees. And it's also sweet. It just melts your heart when you hear the message of Krishna. And then, of course, then there's the chanting, right? We're the Hare Krishna movement. We're meant to chant Hare Krishna, chanting the names of Krishna. This is the second one, the 5 most potent forms. In order to chant, chanting means we must know what we're chanting. We must know who Krishna is and what is his nature, what are his qualities, what does he look like, what does he do, his pastimes, where does he live. All these things are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He lives in Vrindavan, he herds the cows, he plays with his friends at Govardhan, he swims in the Yamuna river. he kills demons, lots of demons. It's a really nice part of Krishna's pastimes, killing the demons. It really steals your heart, because nobody likes, like evil monsters that like come to ruin all the fun. And then so in Vrindavan, when the evil monsters come to ruin the fun, Krishna just like kills him in these really interesting ways. And then all the devotees are like, yeah, Haribo, Krishna killed another demon. Just so much sweetness there. And it also makes you feel protected, that because it's very fearful, this world. We're pretty protected here, but other places in the world there's a lot of crime and horrible things. Really bad things happen in the world. And to know that Krishna, if you're protected by Krishna, Krishna will just, when they come, you'll be protected. When you hear how Krishna protects his devotees, you'll feel very protected, very safe. And so Krishna is the reservoir of all these good qualities. In devotional service, hearing, chanting, worshipping the deity of Krishna, associating with the devotees of Krishna, and living in the holy place where Krishna performed his activities, his pastimes. These are the 5 most potent forms of bhakti. You become absorbed in Krishna, always thinking about Krishna. And he's the reservoir of all these good qualities. Reservoir of sweetness, reservoir of pleasure. That's who Krishna is. And so we become absorbed, and it's a form of meditation. It's higher than just a mechanical meditation. You develop a superior taste meditating on Krishna. And this meditation doesn't have to be an inactive meditation either. While you're doing services, you can be absorbed in a transcendental state of meditation. And so that in that way it's a bit more practical and a bit more easy to perform than meditation, mechanical meditation. So I just wanted to read, this is from the Nectar of Devotion, which is a book that's really important to read, especially in the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Alongside the Bhagavad Gita, this Nectar of Devotion is really important for understanding the process of bhakti. And it explains the process of bhakti very scientifically. Prabhupada called it the complete science of bhakti yoga. So it explains the process of how to practice bhakti, and then it also explains the perfectional states of bhakti. And in this part, I'm going to read about some of the qualities of Krishna. So, chapter 21, Rupa Goswami explains the qualities of Krishna. And so, by hearing about Krishna, this is the process of bhakti, we develop devotion to Krishna. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, after consulting various scriptures, has enumerated the transcendental qualities of the Lord as follows. So there's 64 qualities that Rupa Goswami explains of Krishna, and I'll just read a few of them and discuss a little bit. So the first one he explains is that Krishna has beautiful features of the entire body. So he explains any comparison of the different parts of the Lord's body to different material objects cannot factually be a complete comparison. Ordinary persons cannot understand how exalted are the bodily features of the Lord. Ordinary persons who cannot understand how exalted are the bodily features of the Lord are simply given a chance to understand by a material comparison. It is said that Krishna's face is as beautiful as the moon. His thighs are powerful, just like the trunks of elephants. His arms are just like 2 pillars. His palms are expanded like lotus flowers. His chest is just like a doorway. His hips are dens, and the middle of his body is a terrace. So Krishna he's marked with all auspicious characteristics. He's extremely pleasing. He's effulgent. He's strong. He's ever youthful. He's a wonderful linguist. He's truthful. He talks pleasingly. He's fluent, highly learned, highly intelligent, a genius, artistic, extremely clever, expert, grateful, firmly determined, an expert judge of time and circumstance. He sees and speaks on the authority of the Vedas. He's pure, self-controlled, steadfast, forbearing, forgiving, grave, self-satisfied, possessing equilibrium, magnanimous, religious, heroic, compassionate, respectful, gentle, liberal, shy, the protector of surrendered souls. He's happy, the well-wisher of devotees, controlled by love, all auspicious, most powerful, all famous, popular, partial to devotees, very attractive to all women, all worshipable, all opulent, all honorable, and the supreme controller. So those are 50 of the qualities. Then there's some more. Changeless, all cognizant, ever fresh, Satchit Ananda, possessing an eternal blissful body, possessing all mystic perfections. Then there's some more. He has inconceivable potencies, uncountable universes generate from his body. He is the original source of all incarnations. He is the giver of salvation to the enemies whom he kills. He is the attractor of liberated souls. He is the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes. He is surrounded by devotees, endowed with wonderful love of Godhead. He can attract all living entities all over the universe by playing on his flute. And he has a wonderful excellence of beauty which cannot be rivaled anywhere in the creation. So those are the 64 qualities of Krishna, explained by Srila Rupa Goswami. So I just wanted to share those qualities of Krishna because it's, like I said before, it's not that we're just working. We're not just working, and with no reciprocation. That's what it seems like. We're not getting any money. We're not getting anything in return materially. But what we are getting in return is Krishna. We're getting Krishna, our relationship with Krishna, and Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure and all good qualities. And to reawaken our relationship with Krishna, it gives us great happiness. So this happiness is even more profound than impersonal meditations and or realizing just the self in ourselves, in and of ourselves, but awakening to our relationship with Krishna because of all of his good qualities. He's the reservoir of all personal qualities, and so by reawakening our relationship with Krishna, we become happy, become very, very blissful. And so this is the message of the Bhagavatam. This is the main teaching. So the reason why it's important to understand this point in its context from the Bhagavatam is because there may be other spiritual paths you're considering. Maybe we should just study the philosophy of the Upanishads. Maybe we should just engage in meditation. Maybe we should go on a vipassana retreat and just sit for long hours and realize the self. I exist, I exist, I exist, I exist. Or no, they say I don't exist. Vipassana retreats, they say that there is no self. The Buddhist philosophy, it's called Shunyavadi. There's nothing exists. But even the I exist platform doesn't really work so well. And the Bhagavatam explains over and over again that bhakti is the superior process. And all these other processes of yoga, meditation, philosophy that come from the Vedas, this whole culture of yoga and meditation, using Sanskrit words to explain things and appear very knowledgeable, all these things, they come from the Vedas, and the conclusion of the Vedas is the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the ripened fruit of all the Vedic knowledge, and Srila Vyasadeva, who is the compiler of all the Vedas, he himself compiled this Bhagavatam after compiling all the other aspects of the Vedas. And after compiling all the other aspects of the Vedas, he was not satisfied with his work. He said he wasn't feeling like he had completed his work, and Narada Muni came and explained to him that he hadn't properly glorified Krishna, and he hadn't properly explained the process of bhakti. So the process of bhakti and the glorification of Krishna is the only message of the Bhagavatam, and it's explained throughout the whole Bhagavatam that the bhakti is superior to jnana and yoga, and that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that Krishna is the source of all other expansions and the source of the material energy. The material universes emanate from him, an expansion of Krishna. So the Bhagavatam rejects all other processes as inferior to the process of bhakti, the process of devotional service to Krishna. So we can thoroughly practice Krishna consciousness with the focused mind when we understand that all other spiritual processes are subordinate to the process of bhakti. By thoroughly hearing the message of the Bhagavatam, this becomes very easily understood, very clearly understood. And we become absorbed in a higher happiness that is not possible through these other spiritual practices. So that's my explanation for this verse and purport. Just a bit of a recap. There's the analogy was given that Indra, Indra would, the controller of water, would be digging a well. If that would be similar to the process of bhakti, the devotees engaging in yoga and meditation in and of themselves. It's like a very insignificant thing in comparison to bhakti. So is there any comments or questions or reflections by the devotees?
You're talking about when we hear the pastimes of Krishna, you were talking about Krishna killing the demons, and how it gives us it's exciting to hear, and devotees are very happy to hear the demons are killed, and you were saying it gives us a sense of security and protection, and devotees are Krishna protects the devotees, and so we hear many stories of great exalted devotees like Pandavas, Lord Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, who they would try to be killed at the hands of demons, but they were protected. But then we hear other stories of many Vaishnavas who died at the hands of the Muslims, hundreds of years ago in India, and modern times in ISKCON. Devotees who have died in different ways, passed away from car accidents or locked in concentration camps, or even some devotees being murdered in ISKCON. So how can we understand that they're protected? Maybe you can say something on that.
Yeah, well, protected doesn't necessarily mean on the material platform. If somebody is engaged in the process of devotional service, if they're killed, there's no loss. they're engaged in the process of devotional service. So there will be some pain there, or some suffering, like serious pain. I think pain is worse than death, I think, in my observation. The pain of dying is worse than the actual process of leaving the body and going onwards, because we're attached to the body. So there'll be some serious pain, but the devotee will be protected in the sense that what happens after death, like your car, right? Afterlife insurance. Krishna consciousness is afterlife insurance, not necessarily this life insurance, because this life will end one way or another. But we're protected on the spiritual plane when you surrender to Krishna. Does that answer your question? Good.
The comments. I'd like to thank you for going through Krishna's qualities as Rupa Goswami listed 64, and of course the unlimited, they're the ones that we refer to. We should be aware of them, because it's so imprinted in our consciousness that the three, let me say, most important things to remember. We'll always remember Krishna and not to forget him. That's the one to remember, always remember Krishna. But we can do that by meditating on his qualities and his names, which bring to mind his pastimes. His names, his pastimes, his qualities, his pastimes, and his names, isn't it?
Name, form, qualities, pastimes.
His forms, yes. That previous chapter I just had. So thank you for going through qualities. There's never any harm. There's joyousness if you spend time on it.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Vaishnavi, you have something? Okay, switch off the microphone.
Thank you for the class. You mentioned about that one may not necessarily get material reciprocation, but the spiritual reciprocation comes because we get Krishna and we get devotional service. So I was just thinking that also that's dependent on one's ashram and location, because sometimes in the name of service, if someone is in the married life in the Grihastha ashram, in the name of saying progress in spiritual life, and then neglect the material aspect, that there's some needs in the married life, and also it depends on the nature of the couple. Like, it's very rare to get a Sudama Brahmana and a wife who's willing to live simply like that. So it's also another aspect to consider when people get married, is that do they both want to kind of live a simple life more? And also location. If someone's living at a table, then it's a given that they both make that commitment that spiritual life will be more important and will take priority. And then there may be a bit of a license, not that living outside is spiritual life is not a priority, but living at the temple is a greater responsibility, that we've made a commitment and the service comes first. And so I was just thinking that.
Yeah, nice. Yes, I just wasn't so much putting down material necessities, but just in the process of, I was explaining, it seems when you engage in devotional service, you're not getting anything in return, like a salary, things like that. But thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's a nice point. It's important. Yeah, thank you. Alright, thank you all. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.